Will the Warriors win Game 6 in Boston?
Okay, that's a sucker's question because who the hell knows? I believe the Warriors will win this series. It was your question, right? You're trying to suck me in. It's very hard to predict one game, especially here's why. Celtics are a good team. They have a hell of a good coach.
Yep.
They're fighting for their lives. It's an elimination game, and they're home.
Yep.
So they're going to give everything they have. Not that they didn't before, but they're going to probably do that and
They're gonna win.
whatever desperation does. So I don't know if the Warriors are going to win that. I do think they're going to win the series.
I agree. I think the Boston's going to win Game 6. I think it's hard to close out a team on their court. And then I think the Warriors will win Game 7. Now, they lost Game 7 on their own home court in 2016 to LeBron James. They did. But that was at the end of a 3-game losing streak that started with Draymond Green being suspended, and it all kind of snowballed.
Yes.
It all kind of snowballed.
Yeah.
I don't know. They've just won 2 in a row. I think they're going to lose 1 in Boston, but that's okay. I think they know they can beat Boston in San Francisco, and they probably will in Game 7. And also, they don't have LeBron James. That's the thing with Boston. I don't know how great that team is. They're very good.
If the Warriors happen to win Game 6 in Boston, what an achievement.
Yep.
So all I can say is I think they're going to win. I imagine they're going to win in the 7th game at home. But if they win there, all the more power to them. And again, all praise to Steve Kerr. That would be four championships. What a hell of a coach. And what a great decision to part ways with Mark Jackson and to bring in Steve Kerr. I mean,
and again, I agree.
No,
but again,
Mark Jackson was sort of a winner with the Warriors, but nothing like this.
Also, what I like about this team, what I like about how they're doing this is in 20 years, when we talk about this team, they're going to be remembered for their offense, but they're winning with defense right now. They're playing Boston, which was supposed to be the best defensive team in the league, and then the Warriors are playing better defense. They're exposing the fact that Boston has no point guard. Marcus Smart, excellent defensive player, not a point guard. Jason Tatum, excellent scorer, not a point guard. And so Boston had 18 turnovers last night. Warriors had 6. They took care of the ball. Boston didn't. Boom, you lost. I love that. And they're, 94 points they gave up. That's amazing. So
now, Iggy, I noticed you had a video earlier where you talked about the greatest all-time team.
Yeah.
Could we talk about that for a minute?
Yes.
Okay, you have Curry as a starting point guard.
I do.
I love Stephen Curry, and I could see why you did that. But it's not a slam dunk. So let's hold on a minute.
Okay.
I'm going to say one proviso. It's very hard to compare players of different eras.
Yes.
Especially that used to not be a three-point shot.
Yes.
Just like in boxing, it's very hard to compare Marciano to Muhammad Ali. It's different eras, different thing. So let's pretend that doesn't exist. But I do think that's a big obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 other point guards that I would like to point out.
Okay.
Oscar Robertson was great. He scored more than Curry.
Yep.
I looked him up before we went on today. He had higher by a little bit than Curry. He was a stronger player. He could certainly, by the strength, back in guards and get shots. He, I think, had more assists. Magic Johnson didn't score as well as either of those 2, although he had a higher scoring percentage than both of them. And he, in terms of assists, obliterated the other 2.
Oh, yeah.
Obliterated. So let's
Can I
not.
address that? Can I address it?
In a minute. Let's not talk about Oscar because you never saw him play. But let's talk about Magic.
Well, Magic was great, of course. Magic couldn't shoot like Curry. Magic didn't really share the playmaking role in his prime. He was the playmaker. Curry shares it with Draymond. If Draymond wasn't on the team, let's say put it this way. If Curry replaced Magic on the Showtime Lakers and Curry had Kareem and they were running up and down the court, I think Curry would have averaged 11, 12 assists a game. I think he's skilled enough to do that. But on this team, it's not what's required. They want him to shoot and run around. I think on that team, he would have been just as successful as Magic Johnson with Kareem. I think he would have.
I love it. I love it.
You could have played them together. Magic and Curry, you could play them together.
Okay, so who's your shooting guard?
Jordan.
No question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, who's your small forward?
LeBron.
Okay.
LeBron. And it's like Curry isn't a traditional point guard. Well, LeBron does a lot of that too. So they kind of complement each other there.
Okay. Who is your power forward?
See, this is a tough one. I couldn't figure this out. I went with a guy who doesn't have the resume for it, but in his peak was, to me, as good. I went with Kawhi Leonard. He beat Curry in the finals. He beat LeBron in the finals, but he's been hurt a lot. You could go with Larry Bird. You could go with, I wouldn't go with Kevin Durant. You could go with Larry Bird. But I think
Larry Bird in talks.
Larry Bird.
Yeah, and in fact, that team would need an outside shooter because as great as LeBron and Michael Jordan are, they were not great jump shooters.
Not great 3-point shooters, no. Good enough, but not great.
No,
yeah,
not like Curry. And I think you'd need a great jump shooter like.
Yeah.
Okay, I also want to mention as a power forward Elgin Baylor, but he's from so many generations back, so you can't really say. And I know, yeah.
And you're saying, go ahead. Well, why are we discounting the 60s? Why? I don't think we should.
It was a different game.
Okay.
All I'm saying is, Iggy, it was a really different game.
Yeah, it was.
And so it's hard to make those comparisons.
Yeah. Well, for my center, I'm going Bill Russell. I know it was a different
problem with that.
I didn't never watch him play, but I was just looking through his resume, like 15. Okay, so he goes to USF. Not exactly he didn't go to UCLA. His last 2 years at USF, they lost one game. They won back-to-back NCAA titles at USF. Then he goes to Boston, wins the title his first year, not the second year, wins 8 in a row, then becomes the coach. Then they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they win what? 3 more. For 15 years, he won 13 championships. I've never heard of an athlete being that dominant in any sport ever.
Yeah.
How does he not get more credit?
Again, it's a different era.
I mean, like either or less. Why did anyone else win 13 of 15 titles in any sport ever? That's amazing. And he was the coach at the same time. That's amazing. First black coach ever in North. I
know he's really his resume is phenomenal.
Greatest defensive player ever.
Iggy, he's from Oakland and went to McClymonds High.
That's right.
And I want to tell you who else went to McClymonds High. Frank Robinson.
Oh.
Now, look, in case you're so young, Frank Robinson is one of the greatest baseball players who ever lived. He also he was a power-hitting right fielder. Oh, great. And he managed the Giants. And I knew him very well. Now, he and Russell knew each other. I don't know if they were the same year. I've never checked that out. I think Frank died. I think Russell's older, but I don't know. I didn't check out McClymonds. Anyway, Frank was very critical of everyone. You could say he was really a prick in a lot of ways. So one time I was talking to him and, Russell managed the Sacramento Kings. So Frank told me, I was talking to Bill and they were losing this game. I guess maybe it was the playoffs or something. I said, Bill, why didn't you call a timeout when the other team went on a run? And Bill said to Frank, it wouldn't have done any good. And Frank said, it wouldn't have done any bad.
Because Frank actually was a great manager, right?
He was hold on. He never won a World Series.
Maybe not great.
And he alienated a lot of players. He was a brilliant tactician.
Okay.
But he was a prick. And a lot of players didn't like him.
Got it. Okay. Different era, though.
Yeah, different era.
So what Frank was saying that Bill was not the best tactician.
Yeah, and he didn't read people. Not that Frank
you can call a timeout, Bill.
Yeah, call it. It wouldn't have done any good. It wouldn't have done any bad. I never forgot that.
That's funny. Well, anyway, that's my starting 5. Who would you put at center?
Maybe Kareem.
Kareem.
Again, because the scoring.
Yeah.
And he was a pretty good defender, too. He was unstoppable.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what Bill Russell could have done against him. I mean, Russell really always beat Wilt Chamberlain when it mattered. Always.
Yes. Yeah, he did.
He did. But Kareem was different. Kareem could actually add a little finesse to his game. I don't know.
He had that beautiful sky hook. Yeah.